Video game reviews are nothing short of absurd for people that have been playing video games for long enough. But despite the obvious bias and conflict of interest present in so many reviews, somehow the vast amount of people are fooled again and again. Why is this? Well, today I wanted to talk more about this in detail, and I really think you can think about video game reviews essentially into a few categories. And so the first one is early access. Usually this is the big names in the gaming space, very popular creators, and they normally also have access to previews of the video game as well. Then you have game reviews that come a little bit later, and usually these are people that do not have access. And then you have reviews that are further away from the release date. Sometimes they're retrospectives or covering a very old video game. Now, let me ask you something. Doesn't it seem a little curious that so many of these early access reviews are so positive, and the later ones, which don't have access, are negative? And when a review is negative on early access, isn't it a little weird how usually there's a herd mentality with this? And I think for a lot of gamers, they've already kind of come down this conclusion and they've kind of accepted this, and they might say, well, why is this an issue? Who cares? I think that it's important because this mentality rewards gaming behavior in certain directions, which influences the state of video games. And here's the problem with early access reviews. In a lot of ways, there is this conflict of interest because there's an incentive to be positive to maintain access. And generally being more positive seems to have a higher rate of views and performance for a lot of creators. So if you're positive, I think that really helps in a lot of ways your overall monetary gain and your overall popularity as a creator. Now, also, I think that when you have this early access that a lot of these creators have, there is this pressure to get the review out as quickly as possible. And so you play the game in a weird way. You're kind of rushing through the game. Maybe you're rushing to play through the story, or you play the video game in an odd way, which changes your relationship with the video game. I think there is something to be said about playing a video game with space. You know, you play a little bit of the video game one day, maybe you play a little bit more of it on the weekend, and it changes your emotional connection to the video game. And so when you rush to get these games out, even if they have a good amount of time, there's still this pressure to it. And I think that influences the review in a way. And I think that also there's this review framing in so many ways that is disingenuous. And it's clearly this marketing element behind video game reviews where you see all these 10 out of 10s or 9 out of 10s all over the place. And it's this masterpiece and everyone is praising this. But if you really think about it and just take a step back from the marketing, take a step back from this poster showing all the amazing reviews, who are these people? I mean, it's just 20 people that happen to play a lot of video games that write video game reviews. I mean, does that really mean anything? And in so many cases, they'll say things like, this game is a masterpiece, a generational masterpiece, a once-in-a-lifetime experience, this amazing experience. And it's like, by who? If a game is actually a masterpiece, the game will speak for itself. A review won't change that. And you'll see this with popular video games that become these cultural phenomena, or they just become huge for YouTubers and live streamers. They speak for themselves, whether it was Fortnite coming on the scene, or PUBG, or Grand Theft Auto, or even indie games like Vampire Survivors, Balatro, Stardew Valley, etc. So when you kind of have this framing of 10 out of 10 masterpiece, I mean, is it really the case? This just seems like this marketing ploy to try to build up hype. And a lot of times too, these review scores really don't match expectations. I mean, when you have a 10 out of 10 so many times, a 9 out of 10, an 8 out of 10, what does that really mean? It's almost like you can mark 3 points off the score to get the real number. And especially too, where so many people associate a 6 out of 10 as a bad video game or a 5 out of 10. It's like you're not even really using the whole spectrum of 1 out of 10 when you have a video game. Or people aren't going to waste their time reviewing a 2 out of 10 video game. And so really those scores are kind of disingenuous. They're trying to influence you to think of 9 out of 10, that's great. That's awesome, but really, is it one of the greatest video games of all time? Is it one of the greatest video games of this year? There's so many dynamics to think about. Those high scores don't really mean anything in that broader context. And ultimately, in the end of the day, when we don't have critique, you ultimately get bad video games. Because theoretically, if everyone operated with complete integrity, if there was no early access to begin with, wouldn't you have more integrity within the space? And then that would encourage and almost push to higher quality standards for video games. But in reality, we don't have that. Instead, we have critics that, and it almost seems to support the business objectives, the business dynamics of the video game, even if it's a soft pressure. And so in a way, because there is this not uniform integrity, it creates worse video games as a byproduct of this. And this is not a new idea. I mean, this has been, a problem even beyond video games, but I'm just speaking about this, just looking at it analytically here, that when you don't have this integrity, it leads to ultimately bad video games. And I think that many gamers that have been playing video games for a long time have realized this at this point. and you just kind of go in and see some gameplay footage of someone playing, and you use your own judgment to determine if the game is worth playing or to check it out later on. And honestly, I think most gamers already have a good indication of whether something's going to be good or not. I really do think a lot of people have a high probability of guessing the success of a video game, or really whether they'll like it or not. And if they don't know, even before the game comes out, seeing some gameplay footage, they can pretty much figure that out for themselves. If you have experience with video games, you don't even really need the reviewers. You can just kind of see for yourself. And how many times have you actually been surprised really by a video game? I mean, how many times have you said, I think this game is going to be bad, or I think this game is going to be great, and your expectations aren't met? A lot of times too, I think that maybe you're more disappointed if you're on a hype train for something. That is probably a higher chance of being surprised. But if you think something's going to be bad, I'm trying to think of how many times the game actually turned out to be great when you knew it wasn't for you or wasn't great. It's really, you have to be cautious about, you're excited for something, is it going to be as fun or exciting as you think? And a lot of times too, that surprise of the game maybe disappointing expectations is because you didn't have that knowledge or know a lot about the game in the previews beforehand, which would have informed your judgment to begin with. In so many ways, I feel like game reviews are like almost not even needed as much anymore. I mean, I think game reviews are important because they can help you to explore new games that maybe you aren't very familiar with. Maybe they're a little bit older video games, or they're great recommendations. But like in terms of the new video game reviews, in so many cases, I feel like you don't even really need it because gaming backlogs are just so huge. There's so many games to play where why do you really need this new video game? And a lot of these newer video games aren't really that good. The quality of a lot of newer video games has decreased quite a bit, and there's not necessarily a ton of innovation or breathtaking new ideas there. And so is that the only way to get those experiences? Not really. There's other RPGs to play that are older, and some of them are even better. And so it's not like you have these crazy games where it's the only way to get this new gameplay genre, this new gameplay experience, that you maybe had this idea in the past. And so you have lower quality newer video games, less innovation, and also these have high price tags, and oftentimes they're discounted a couple of months or years down the line. And if you have this backlog, you can pick up the game when the bugs are fixed or where there's improved performance and it's at a cheaper price tag, especially when you have this huge backlog. And of course, the pre-orders and the bonus DLC in many cases aren't really worth it. And in a lot of ways, I feel like this pre-ordering dynamic is a product of the past with more physical media. And so in so many ways, why do you even need the reviews? I mean, are you really going to play that new video game? I mean, some people are, but if you think about it, I mean, why do you need it? It just doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if you're playing some of these older games. The problem is people continue to be influenced by them and they reward bad practices. And I think this is more of a societal issue fundamentally, in how society critically thinks or doesn't critically think about how we consume video games or thinking before playing a video game. And so I think this is the big issue. It's trying to look past the marketing. It's trying to think about things more critically. It's trying to think about innovation. And for a lot of sophisticated gamers, for a lot of more advanced gamers, I don't think this is an issue, but it's something that I think is affecting maybe more casual audiences. And it's something that I think is not necessarily the best for the gaming world. And I wish more and more people would understand this problem with modern video game reviews. And hey, if you like this video, I talk a lot about video games on my channel. Check it out and consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video.